You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma. And it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome. This episode is brought to you by the Dog House OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Dog House have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Dog House. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode down at the Oklahoma Hall of Fame today. Thunder Fever has taken over Oklahoma City, and I am here for it. It's been a blast to watch the team. We are, what day is it today? It's Thursday today. We're 2 games in so far recording this. This episode will go out following Tuesday. I have a very Thunder-themed podcast for you today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my guest, Mr. Andrew Schlecht. How are you, mate?
I'm great.
Yeah? Got some sleep?
A little bit. I was at the arena until about 2 last night. Jeez. And then I have 3 young boys, and so when they wake up, I'm up. So, yeah. But that's this time of year, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting, right? And obviously playoffs, it's been 4 years since we've had playoffs a long time since we've had a team like this. But yeah, man, it's exciting to be in the job that you're in. We'll get into all that, but love to hear your story a little bit. But before we dive into the Thunder stuff, what's your Oklahoma story, man? Where were you born and raised?
Yeah, born and raised in OKC. Went to Putnam City Schools. Went to PC North. Graduated and went to Oklahoma State. And I mean, I'm all Oklahoma, man. I've always lived here. Lived in Yukon. I live in Edmond now. So, yeah.
Growing up here, big family, small family, like always in athletics, like how do we tie all this into what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved basketball.
Okay.
Growing up, I've got 3 siblings, and none of them are really super into hoops. But I just always loved it. There was just something about it for me growing up. And there's no pro team here, so I was a big Cowboys fan, but then I was also a huge Shaq fan growing up.
Yeah.
And so I just remember watching him in the early 90s and just thinking, like, who is this? Like, what is going on here?
This guy's amazing.
Yeah, he just was obliterating everybody. And I just wanted to watch more. Mm-hmm. And so I followed them. I have Lakers jerseys and Heat jerseys, and I have a game-worn Shaq Suns jersey that I won in a contest years ago. So yeah, like Shaq was like my very first, like that's how I got into the NBA. And then obviously when the Hornets got here and then the Thunder got here, it was like, wow.
Yeah, like they're in my backyard. This is my thing.
Yeah.
I got to go to every game.
Yeah.
Get involved. So growing up in high school, then obviously basketball. You have a huge love for basketball. What's the playing side like?
I mean, my playing days really stopped in 9th grade.
Okay.
I was not like some great basketball player, but I always loved watching. Mm-hmm. And so me and my buddies would get together and watch games and the draft and all of that, and we're always talking about it. But I was only good enough to ride the bench, and so I opted to do leadership stuff instead. Mm-hmm. So me and my friends would all run for leadership offices, and we would. And it plays into what I do now because some of those same guys do the podcast with me today. Mm-hmm. And so we were always being creative. We were always had our hands on some kind of project where we were making up skits or making a video or doing something, creatively together. And we all also love the NBA. But yeah, I grew to be about this tall when I was in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
And didn't grow anymore. And one of the last instructions I was given to by a school coach was, Schlecht, don't dribble. So didn't quite develop my skills. And then when I turned out to be guard size, it didn't do me any favors.
I didn't grow up playing basketball. I mean, we had it as a sport in my school, but it's not. Shocker, it's not a big sport in Wales in the UK. Mm-hmm. Wales isn't known for its basketball talent,
right.
But I was tall as a kid too, and everyone's like, "Oh, you should play basketball." I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands, right? It's like you need to bounce it and stop running with it. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it's. I mean, sport as a kid, right? It just every kid should play competitive sports.
Oh yeah.
Every sport you have, whether it's just people skills, leadership skills, hand-eye coordination. The fitness is just a byproduct, and parents out there, you get to tire your kids out, but just the skills that come and the life skills that come from just playing sports and the memories. I mean, you guys obviously are still together, friends today from back then, so that's just testament as well to the friendships that are built around sports. What's it like being a dad now on the other side? You have your 3 kids. How are they have a ball in hand? Are they running around? What's that like?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I'm coaching their teams and trying to take them. I remember being a kid and even hearing about, my uncle went to a Spurs game when I was, I don't know, maybe I was 12 or something. And I was just tell me what it was like. Just give me just a sense of what it's like to actually be at an NBA game. And it just seemed like something that was even so far away from us. And now, knowing the NBA players and the head coach and people in the front office and having these conversations is still mind-blowing to me, but I want to share as much of it with my kids as possible. And so I was able to get my 2 oldest sons passes to go in the game early for game 1, and they got to go in and watch the guys warm up, and they got autographs of everybody on the team, and they are just they love it. And so as a dad, my wife and I really try to involve them as much as we can. And then something that we started doing last year and I hope to do this year is I go to NBA Summer League in Las Vegas, and we just make a road trip out of it, and I just take everybody with me. And so the kids...
What an experience for the kids that is, right? To take them with you to do that. They'll remember that for the rest of their lives.
It's going to be great. And the thing about it is like the most of the things I get to do for my job are just like so much fun.
Right.
Like they're things that people would do with their free time, and so
Like I get to go to every single game.
I gotta go to every game, guys.
Yeah.
I gotta go talk to the coach again. I just I want to share it with them as much as possible because, I mean, I don't know. If my dad was doing what I was doing and he didn't take me, I'd be like, man, screw you, Dad.
Right. Yeah, especially if you look back, right?
Yeah.
If you're a kid and you look back and you're like, Dad was doing all this cool stuff and I was at home.
Right.
You know? Like
Yeah.
I saw Jason Gallagher's been on the podcast
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was with his son yesterday.
Yep.
I'm like, exactly. Your son's little, like, even when you're like a grown man standing courtside and you're looking at these giants who are just athletic phenoms, right? The feeling that we get.
Yeah.
Imagine being 8 years old.
I know.
Right? It's just
Yeah.
like superstars.
Yes.
What a feeling, especially during playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, as a dad, I feel like incredibly blessed to
Yeah.
be able to do what I do, but to be able to share as much of it as I can with my kids, and like credit to the Thunder too, like they're like so like family oriented and like mindful of that kind of stuff too, and so they've been really good to me. They've been really good to my kids, and that's just like a huge part of like, the blessing of being able to do this.
Yeah, it makes it, right? When you know you're comfortable taking your family in there and you know you're not, because some work environments are the opposite, right? You're like, oh, I gotta bring, even if you just have to take them in because you're technically babysitting, it doesn't,
Right.
like some work environments are like, it's kind of not, it's not really appropriate, right? But yeah, that's really nice to have that. Backing up a little bit, where does that, you mentioned kind of going into leadership and creativity and stuff. So towards the end of your kind of high school years and you're going to Oklahoma State, what was the, hey, I'm going to go do this in Oklahoma State? Like, what was the vision of 16, 17, 18-year-old Andrew at that point? Like, what do you want to be?
I had no vision whatsoever at that age.
I mean, so you're like, I'm a Pokes fan. I'm never going to OU. I'm going to Oklahoma State.
My buddies are going to OSU.
Okay.
My cousin is a beta here at OSU. Like, we'll figure it out. Let's have some fun. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew that I loved basketball. I knew that I loved the NBA. Mm-hmm. I also have like a heart for helping kids as well, which was like my former career. I was a teacher, and then I ran the education program for a nonprofit for a long time.
Okay.
Too, and so at one point in my life, I thought that like having the job where I'm running this education nonprofit and then podcasting on the side was like the way to like that was going to be what I do.
It's basically where I'm at now. Yeah, like
And
this is it's a strange feeling to be in.
Yeah.
But obviously we had dreams. I mean, you were living your dream, right? And I'm kind of in that period now of like, how do I make this my full-time thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be asking you for tips after this. So yeah, like you tell me about going to Oklahoma State and figuring life out and figuring out what you wanted to do. Obviously, you chose being a teacher. How does that come about?
Yeah, so I was a psych major in college.
Okay.
My wife was a teacher. She was going to school to be an elementary school teacher. She taught at Bethany Elementary here in Oklahoma City. And I'm getting ready to graduate, and I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
Do I want to go to grad school? None of that was really piquing my interest at the time. Like, I didn't really want to be a therapist. I didn't really know. Somebody was like, oh, you should do IO psychology. And I looked into that. I was like, man, that sounds really boring.
Sounds terrible.
I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, why don't you so in Oklahoma, you can take a test. You can take 3 tests and then talk to a board that just makes sure that you're not an insane person. And then suddenly, poof, you become a teacher. And so like, that's
amazing.
That's what I did. And so I became a high school psychology teacher. It was like my first gig out of college, basically.
Yeah.
So I taught at Midwest City High School. This is another credit to my wife, Amy, who she put together these folders at the time, and this is how long ago it was. Inside each folder was my resume and then a printed out Maps Quest paper that showed me where to go.
Yeah.
She was like, she just handed me the stack and she was like, go to these schools. This is like July before the next school year starts. And I am like, I don't know what I'm doing. I show up to Midwest City High School and I'm like defeated at this point because Midwest City High School, the way it's designed is really strange. There's not a clear entrance to the building. And so I'm I am wandering around this campus like a moron in a suit with this folder. And I'm like, how am I going to get a job here? I can't even find how to get in here. And so I get inside the building and I go and I'm feeling kind of defeated, honestly. And I hand the resume to the lady at the front desk and she her eyes get wide and she was like, I'll be right back. And the principal comes out and he tells me that the psychology teacher at their school had quit that day and that
timing.
They needed somebody. And so I interviewed the next day and then got hired the day after that. And so that's kind of where my teaching career started.
Did you, when you're going to Oklahoma State, are you doing, obviously, you're a huge sports fan, you're paying attention to basketball, to sports, whatever it is. Did you have anything at the time through school that was just like, hey, we had a blog, we had a radio show, did you have anything creatively?
No, honestly, I just listened to podcasts all the time. Mm-hmm. And this was 2005 through 2008 where there really weren't that many podcasts.
Yeah. It's kind of a nerdy thing to do.
It was. Yeah. So I listened to Bill Simmons' show. Mm-hmm. I listened to what at the time was the Basketball Jones, which became No Dunks, which is at The Athletic now. And I listened to Chad Ford, who used to work in the NBA space, did a show called The NBA Today. And I would listen to those all the time. I would even re-listen to episodes. This is amazing. I love this medium. This is so fun. I actually get to choose what I listen to. And that at the time was planting seeds of this is something that you love,
right?
And I didn't have a clue how to do a podcast, and certainly wouldn't have been good at it then. But that's during college, I remember riding my bike to class and listening to the Basketball Jones every morning because they would do a 5-day-a-week show recapping the games of the night before. And so it was really, for me, that's kind of where the podcasting seeds were planted. It was just falling in love with that medium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you start, you mentioned you're married at this time. You're a psychology teacher now. Mm-hmm. No kids at this point, just you two?
No kids, just us, yeah.
So you're starting life in Oklahoma City, I'm going to be a teacher, but I love basketball.
Yeah.
When does the hey, I want to do this, I'm going to do a show, you mentioned nonprofit work, does that come next?
Yeah, so I worked at Midwest City for 3 years. I got my master's degree in teaching during that time, and then from Southern Nazarene, and then I was applying for jobs to be a principal.
Yeah.
And this job came open at Whitefields. It's still there, and they're kind of shifting what it is now, but it was a residential facility for kids that had kind of slipped through the cracks of the foster care system. Okay. So there were kids that had been in between 8 and 30 different placements in their life. Mm-hmm. Just the kids where it was we don't know where they fit.
Right.
How do we keep these kids? They're bouncing around everywhere. We need to find them a landing spot. And so I ran their education program for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Out in Piedmont. You drive by, it looks like a Mormon compound or something. But it's really cool. Tom Ward is kind of his ministry.
Okay.
And so it was a huge blessing to Amy and I. This was in 2011 that I got hired out there. So yeah, that's when I started out at Whitefields. And then in 2012, I started a Bible study with a few friends, and we would meet at Jimmy's Egg, and we would have a specific book of the Bible we were trying to read, but we would talk about that for 15 minutes, and we'd talk about the NBA for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And
the real fellowship is about NBA, no? Yeah.
And so we would, and that's how the podcast got started. It's we did that for 3 weeks, and then someone was like, why don't we just record this and just see what happens?
Yeah.
And just do a Thunder show. Because at the time, there wasn't really any Thunder podcasts. And so we went to my friend Jay Smith. It was me, Jamie Wheat, who's not a part of the show anymore, but me and Jay and Jamie Jay was a youth pastor at the time, and we went to his church in his youth room. We put a blue snowball microphone in the middle of us, and we just talked at it for 50 minutes, and thank God that no one can hear that episode. This has got to be the worst podcast ever made.
Right.
But that was kind of like
you got to start somewhere.
The beginning of it, yeah. And you just got to start it. But yeah, we that's kind of how we started the show.
Before we dive into the podcast side of things,
Mm-hmm.
tell me about where the passion you have for giving back, passion of kids, and just where does that come from?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've always been just really sensitive to what God would want for me and like what kind of aches the Lord's heart. And so for me, that is something that is just like undeniably something that is truly terrible happening in our societies, like kids getting left behind or kids being mistreated.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I was good at working with kids. I was good at teaching. I was good at kind of leading kids. Mm-hmm. And so it was a great fit for me for a long time. And I really enjoyed it. It was really tough kids, like kids that were violent and, felt hopeless. And it was really kind of the perfect place for me during that time of my life. And I'm very thankful for that time. And I still have contact with several of the guys now that are like grown adults, that are still trying to figure things out. But I think that passion is really just kind of born from, my gratitude to the Lord and what He's done for me.
Yeah.
And just wanting to give that back, I guess.
So you grew up in a fairly Christian family then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
I grew up in the Methodist church.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. And it's obviously, it ties in, right? Because that kind of makes sense why teaching is kind of, we probably didn't think you'd become a teacher, but it just falls naturally into kids wanting to give back, help people, who just need a little push, right? Or need a little raise up or pat on the back, whatever it is, especially in the psychology world, because then you get to put, teaching is such a real skill, and sadly teachers don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
There's so much that they do, you do, that is not in the job description, right?
Oh,
but with the psychology degree, like you really, really help someone. Mm-hmm. And probably they didn't know it. Right? Like that's the other cool side of psychology is like, we can do these things that come across as just, I'm just being nice.
Yep.
But down the road, like you keep compounding those things, and then, like you said, you stay in touch with these people and they grow up to be, awesome human beings, have successful lives, and, it can go so many other ways, right? Like that's the sad part. But no, it's really awesome to get into that. And then also to find a job in it and give back for so many years and 7 years to be at Whitefields.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it's hard. I like to plan things, but also I'm very like, just kind of fly by the seat of my pants as well. Some of the time, it's a lot more fun reacting to life than it is trying to plan it.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it sounds like that's kind of what you did the earliest parts of your career. You're like, I'm going to focus on what I like to do and give back, and things, if they fall into place, great. And that sounds like, listening to your story, what has happened.
Yeah, without a doubt. I did not plan any of this.
Yeah.
That's definitely how I feel.
So where does the name come from then for the podcast?
So the name Down to Dunk comes from, I have a fantasy basketball league that me and my friends have been in since 2004, I think. And my friend Luke Stevens, who's on the show with us to this day, he's part of the show. He's now never been like the biggest NBA guy, but he just like likes to do everything that we do. And so he was looking at his roster, and next to each name there are like little injury reports, and one says DTD, one says O, which means day to day or out. He calls my buddy Alex and is like, "Hey, why am I doing so bad? I have O's next to my guy, which I assume means outstanding. I have DTD next to my guys, which I think means down to dunk, that they're ready to go. It's like, why is my team so bad?" He's like, "Dude, your team is injured. What are you talking about? That your guy is down to dunk?" And so we always made fun of him for that. And when we were, you're trying to come up with a podcast name, you just are like, what am I going to name this thing?
Right.
Like, I know I want to talk about this. We thought about having it be like a thunder-centric name. It all felt so cheesy at the time that we just couldn't bear to call it anything thunder related. And so we wanted to do something unique and something fun. And it's funny because I have to, when I'm like for SEO purposes, have to like name the show Down to Dunk in Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, just so that people can find it. But yeah, that's where the name comes from, and it's a credit to the way that my buddy Luke's mind works.
That's awesome. So yeah, shout out to Luke for that one. That's great. But that's like, it's great, right? Because it comes from an authentic story, and it's not just like, oh, I named it Down to Dunk because like I think it's cool.
Yeah.
No, it comes from a story that like, obviously is authentic, and like I said, you can still make fun of Luke for that to this day,
Yep.
which is the best part about it. So 2012, the Bible study turns into a podcast. You sit around, a bunch of guys around this microphone, and you start going from there. You just meet weekly and start chatting like that. That becomes the weekly show, and are you the one that's like producing and putting it out? You
Yeah,
take the
so
lead that
it
way?
started with our buddy Jamie was like producing it and putting it out, maybe like the first like few episodes, and then so I basically told the guys, listen, this is something that I would really like to try to do, and if we're going to do it, we need to commit to a specific time. And so we're all like young, like working adults. I said, listen, the only time that I know that we can commit is 6 a.m. on Fridays. And
What a time to record a podcast.
I was like, listen, none of us are doing anything. Like, there's nothing on our schedules, I promise you.
Yeah.
And nothing will be on our schedules. And so we committed to that. I think Jamie did not want to fit that into his schedule, I guess, which is totally understandable. It's kind of psychotic to like want to do it that way. But everybody else just kind of latched on. And so we decided, and we've been, since 2012, we have met every Friday at 6 a.m.
That's amazing.
And we still do that today.
And now they come to the house.
Now they come to my house. We've done it in multiple locations. We did it at Jay's church. We did it at Taylor's apartment. Taylor was living in this apartment that we used to call it the meth den, because you walk in, it's just like, this place is just a wreck. Like, he's single. He's got his buddy who's his roommate. He had like a snake in his living room. We're like, what is this? And so we would do it there. We did it at Luke's house for a while. We did it at Jay's house, and then I moved in 2020 and finally had like a space, like a dedicated space, because we would have to like set up and tear down every single time.
Yeah.
And so whenever Amy and I were looking to move, it was like, man, it'd be great to just like have a dedicated like space to do this.
Uh-huh.
And so we do it at my house, 6 a.m. on Fridays.
And the kids are still in bed, or they up at that point?
Kids are usually in bed. My oldest is like an early riser, and so he'll pop up, and it's funny, like he will sometimes pop up and turn it on live on YouTube and like watch.
He's like in the other room
Yeah,
watching you
he's
guys
in the other
live.
room. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody. That's the thing. It's like everybody's asleep.
Right.
Don't have to worry about. You shouldn't have to worry about anything. Nothing should be happening to keep you from doing this.
Right. That makes
So,
a lot of sense.
Yeah, and it was like that consistency piece that I'm really glad that I even thought of, because there's so many podcasts that just start real strong, and then as life starts to happen, like, I can't keep doing this, And there's been a lot of like really good even Thunder podcasts that have like started and been amazing, and then fizzled out because they're recording on like Thursday night at 6:00 or whatever, and it's like, well, we had a kid, and like I can't do that anymore.
Got a new job, whatever it
Doing
is.
this, yeah. So that's
How many episodes have you done right now?
Down to Dunk. It's like almost 1,500.
Incredible. Right. Yeah, over 10 years of content.
Yeah, and then you couple that, I have a Patreon show too called the OKC Dream Team, where we do post-game shows and weekly shows and draft shows. And then, I host and produce the Athletic MBA show. I've probably done 3,000 podcasts at this point, probably.
So take me through kind of like you're working at Whitefields, you're doing this podcast with your buddies, it's at 6 a.m. every Friday, you're having a blast doing it. When do you get that like moment of, wow, like we actually could do this, like, maybe we start making money from it, or maybe we start getting some recognition, or you get a guest on, like there's those pinpoint moments along the last 12 years, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about some of those.
Yeah, Coop Ale Works was like our very first sponsor. And so I remember having a call with them, and they wanted to sponsor the show, and we did some live shows from their old tap room. And it was like kind of that moment where we kind of looked at each other like, oh, we can actually do something here. Mm-hmm. And in 2016, right after Kevin Durant left, we did our first live show over at what used to be Anchor Down over in Deep Deuce.
Yeah.
And we had a couple hundred people show up, and we were like, what is this? Because you were doing this podcast for so long, and you see the numbers, and it's like exciting to see those numbers grow, but there's nothing tangible to grab onto. And then we have our first live show, and like people are like clapping and like laughing along with some of our like stupid jokes, and we're just like, oh, like this is actually like turning into something.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those are definitely big moments for us, was like doing live shows. We did Anthem Brewing was also like somebody that was really good to us during the years, and we would do NBA. We still do a show and like an event on the night of the draft, and those have been some of our biggest nights. And so we would do events at the draft, and even years where the Thunder had like the 21st picks, like this guy's probably not going to play. This is probably going to be terrible, but people would show up. And so we started, getting local sponsorships at the time, and we had even some like more regional, like Andy's Roast and Custard was a sponsor, and we had Chicken Express was a sponsor, and the Mule was a sponsor, and
just per show.
Yeah. And so we would, and it was great. And then in 2020, or I guess in 2019, the Athletic was starting their podcast network, and they wanted a show for every team.
Okay.
And they had kind of gone down the road of trying to develop shows with their current beat writers, and had learned how hard it is to actually get listenership and to make that work. And so they started licensing shows. And so in 2019, I got a call from somebody at the Athletic, and they wanted to license, Down to Dunk. And I was like, wow, that would be amazing.
Are you punking me right now?
Yeah,
right?
what's going on?
Yeah.
And as I'm having these conversations, I'm like, and we're also needing more producers. And I'm like, please let me do this. And so we had a lot of conversations. And at the time, so Whitefields had shut down in 2018, and so I couldn't find my footing career-wise at that time. And so I was interviewing for lots of different positions. I had actually started working in the med device sale industry, and I was interviewing for a job after I kind of gotten into it, and the job I had didn't work out. I was interviewing with a company called Habakkuk that's local here, and Clay Steves, who's like a good friend of mine now, like we went through this like arduous interview process, and it's like a 5-step interview process. It takes months, and my wife and I are just like please, just like give me the job. Like I want to do this. Like I
don't need another background check.
I need a job. Like come on.
Yeah.
And the day that I go to dinner with Clay and his wife, and Amy and I go out to dinner to basically like for him to say that I have the job, the Athletic calls. And they're like, hey, we have a job for you if you want it. I didn't have to interview or anything. They were just like, we're just going to give it to you.
Yeah.
And
your interview for them was the track record of you doing a podcast the last 7 years.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Like you see that you do this at a good level, you're good.
Yeah. And it had been such a, been almost 2 years where I just hadn't really felt like I just couldn't like figure out what I'm going to do next. And it just felt so frustrating. And then to have like 2 of these opportunities just plopped in my lap at once. I couldn't believe it. I felt really grateful. It was really hard having that conversation with Clay that like we go through this entire deal. Like he wants me to, be part of his company. I really wanted to, and then to turn it down, but I couldn't.
You can't turn down your dream job opportunity. There's no
Couldn't
way.
do it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely couldn't do it. I really tried to give it as much thought as I could, but at the end of the day, like this was something that,
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't that many of these like sports jobs around, and certainly not being offered to people that live in Oklahoma.
Right.
So,
And also because of that, the access that that you're going to get as well because of that job too to your your home team, right? Like
Well,
as
and
a fan, the inside of you, the
well,
part
and,
of you.
and
is
credit
just
to
like,
the Thunder, they had already given me access
Yeah.
up to that point, and have been really good. Had been really good to me up until that point, and I credit a lot of that to Royce Young.
Yeah, Royce has been on the show. Yeah.
So Royce, and even to backtrack even further, a touch point for Down to Dunk is like we became the official podcast for Daily Thunder. I should have mentioned that. That is that was a huge deal. We were so excited.
Yeah.
We were just like little girls, so excited when Royce answered that email,
Yeah.
saying that like let's do it.
What year was that?
That was 2015, I think.
Okay.
And
So he was still at ESPN at that point.
yeah, he was still running Daily Thunder, still at ESPN. And at the time, like, Daily Thunder was the place that you would go.
Yeah.
Like, after games, you'd be in the chat, you'd read everything. Like, everything that Royce wrote, you wanted to be a part of it. I think, like, all Thunder fans felt that way.
Yeah.
And we're like, if we could, like, that felt like
We've
the
made it.
apex. Like, that felt like this is it. Like, we finally did something. We're on Daily Thunder. And, Royce kind of bringing me in. And then I started a show with Royce and Fred Katz and John Hamm here locally. It's a Patreon show called the OKC Dream Team.
Uh-huh.
And we started that show together with kind of the premise of, like, we're close to the team. We have access. And we would sit at games together at media dining and just like chat.
Yeah.
And became really good friends. And I was like, why don't we just like make this a show?
Mm-hmm.
And I had obviously done the traditional route Down to Dunk. I was like, let's try it behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And just see if people respond. Like, I don't know if they will. But that's been going since 2017.
Weekly?
That is, it's post-game shows.
Yeah.
So it's between 5 and 6 shows a week.
Oh, wow.
On
Yeah.
that feed.
It's it is when people listening are like, this guy just has a podcast about the Thunder. It is more than that. It's a full-time handsome job. Like, shout out to Amy for understanding all the time that the non-conventional hours that you are recording.
Oh yeah,
podcasts. Early mornings, late nights.
Oh yeah. And when I was working still at Whitefields and doing the show,
Yeah.
I just remember having conversation. I would tell her, "Oh, I'm so excited! We got 1,000 downloads on the show. Like, this is so cool." She's like, "Cool. When do we get paid to do it?"
Yeah, and also, when are you taking me on a date night?
Right,
I haven't
exactly.
seen you in 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, getting on the Daily Thunder was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Tell me about kind of like how then, when the Athletic calls and how that structure works and how they say, hey, we obviously want you to be part of the team, but then also you personally being a producer for them, and like that's a job as well. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of evolved. So whenever I first joined the Athletic, they had a lot of different shows. They had a show for every team. I think we had 4 national shows at the time that we were developing, and nothing there was like working very well. And so Jade Hoy, who was the guy who hired me, he worked at ESPN for forever, and he's like literally one of the first NBA podcast producers ever.
Yeah.
And so it was like such a joy to work under him. So Jade and I developed the Athletic NBA show, which combined a bunch of our national shows into one feed, and it really took off and like really became something. And so like that became kind of my big project, and then they started to dial back all these local shows, and now we really just don't really have any local shows. We have a handful of shows that just have worked, but anything that didn't, we eliminated. But the athletic MBA show is like now like my big project there. And last November, Jade got into an accident and had a traumatic brain injury. And so since that happened, I've had to take on a bigger role within the company and kind of head up all of our NBA audio at the Athletic now. And so we're working on lots of stuff, and it's been a blessing, and it's a lot because you're having to kind of shoulder the conversation of the whole league, and we have lots of different hosts and voices, and so I'm kind of having to manage all of that as well. With the Athletic.
Yeah. Again, dream job though, right?
Dream job.
What a spot.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like there's pressure, but it's like I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. You said a little bit about getting access quite early on to the Thunder. Mm-hmm. How was that experience? How has that obviously built a relationship with them, you know, up until now and continue to? I get the feeling it's a huge family, but obviously you've got to get in the family first. Yeah. So talk a little bit about that. I think people would love to hear about, you know, because everyone wants a media pass, and people have even said to me, you should apply for a media pass. I'm like, you know how many thousands of people are probably doing that? Like, yes, I would love to be at every game, but I need to figure out, for me, it's like, yes, it would be awesome to sit there, but like I need to make it a job. So how do you provide value, not just show up and sit in the media pen and like ask stupid questions like with a guy with an accent, you know? Like, so I haven't asked for one yet. I need to put a plan together first. But tell me about that. What's that like? And obviously getting access the first time and being in the media pen and being like, I get to ask a question, and that the nerves of thinking, oh, who is this new guy that's about to ask a question? Tell me about that.
It was. I mean, I remember asking Royce, like, hey, how does this happen? Like, how do you do this? How do you get a media pass? And he gave me their PR's email, and so I email them. I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm just like, I just want to be a part of this as much as I can, you know. And I get like an email back, it's like, well, we don't really do this.
We don't give podcast hosts media passes. Politely no.
Like, maybe you can go to some Blue games. So I was like, I really don't want to go to Blue games. That's not really how I want to do this. And then we get to Media Day, I think 2014 or maybe it was 2015. And I was like, can I at least just come to Media Day just to come and, you know, see how all that goes and maybe record some stuff. And me and Luke, actually the namesake of Down to Dunk, we went to Media Day for the first time in 2014. We were just two kids, just like so excited, man. Like, we had never been in like that part of the arena before. We had never like been like that close to like all the players and be able to ask questions. And I don't even know if we asked a question that day, to be honest. Like, I went and recorded it. We talked to Mitch McGarry afterwards. He did our first. So one thing that we do every year now is like we get the players to do the Down to Dunk intro for the podcast. And Mitch McGarry was our very first one, and it was horrible. Like, our like delivery and asking him was horrible. His delivery was horrible. It was terrible all around, but we were so excited to be a part of it. And that was kind of like the beginning of it. And then I've learned to be a squeaky wheel. And so I'm just like, hey, what else can I do? Like, how else can I do this? And eventually, I don't know like what the sequence was behind the scenes, but they eventually decided to give me like a single game credential, like for like pick like 3 games, come out, you know, let's just try this out.
Yeah.
And I think that was in 2017.
And that's sit in the media up in the corner, kind of with a desk.
So there's levels to media where you sit. So at the time there was sitting courtside, you know.
Sign me up for that.
There is sitting up in 104, and then there's what I like to call Cloud City, which is the highest level you can possibly sit in the arena.
Yeah.
And that's where I sat for a couple years. And like that was the access, and then we would, you know, get to go into the locker room after the game and like talk to the players and all of that. But, you know, even at the time, I'm like, man, just give me the building.
Yeah, I don't care where I am.
Yeah.
You're on the catwalk up top. If you
want to lock me in a closet and just let me talk to the players afterwards, I don't care. Like, I just like let me in the building. And so yeah, that's where that started, and I still just don't even. It's hard for me to even understand like how it happened. But they don't have those courtside seats anymore, but they did the 2 years prior, and I got to sit in that seat at courtside for those 2 years, and it was just like. It was like pinch me, like every single game. It just felt like I just can't believe that I get to do this. And even last night, they don't have that section, but they have like the corner section now in 108, and I'm sitting in like this seat next to Paris Lawson, who's like on the broadcast, talking on the broadcast. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like how am I here? Like what's going on? It's still just how I feel.
It's that realization, right? That full circle moment, and you have those 5 minutes that you just like realize how special this is, right? Those are the and then you look back and you're like, well, I've been doing this, since 2012, right? Like, yeah, and that's also like everyone talks, or you get asked questions, how do you get there, like, and we're all kind of instant gratification, want to be there now. Like you got kids, who are in high school that are starting blogs, and yeah, they're great at it, but like 12 years gets you to that moment, right? And you're like, yeah, like, and not to be cocky, but you're like, I put in the work, I deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Right. But also I think listening to you chat, you'd probably be fully comfortable if someone just tapped you on the shoulder and be like, back to Cloud City, but we'll still give you access because you're still doing your dream job.
Yeah. I would be like,
right.
Totally understandable. I probably sound like a moron when I'm talking. I don't know. Like I don't know. I feel so blessed just to be able to do any of this.
Yeah.
And I'll take whatever, just like I said earlier, like I didn't really plan any of this. This is certainly like a dream job. It's not even a dream that I even necessarily had. I'm just like falling into like this. I can't believe how like it keeps going. And so I just feel just outrageously blessed just to be able to step into the building and have a relationship with the players and with, Mark Dagnall's making fun of me because I hurt my finger last night, and I'm just like, this is so dumb.
What'd you do? How'd you do it?
Well, this is why he made fun of me, and I didn't want to tell him because I did it working in my yard. I'm just like, and my wife was making fun of me because I said gardening, and she was like, you shouldn't have said gardening. Why did you say gardening? She's like,
yard work, like a man.
Yeah, she said, it sounds like you're like, just like plopping seeds down, And then Mark said, oh, gardening, a contact sport, It's like, great. But it's like even those moments, as a kid, to think that like an NBA coach would even know who I was would have been like overwhelming, And for an NBA coach to like not only know who I am, but to make fun of me, it's like, oh my gosh.
Right, like we're bros now.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, as a kid, you'd have lost your mind if he'd just walked past and given you like a little fist bump.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even if he didn't give me a fist bump, even if I just saw him across the tables at Chili's, I would have been like, man, this is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah. Do you have, I had friends who in college who worked like as ball boys and kind of, scrubbed the floor, and some of them did the locker room stuff. A lot of Bethany guys, actually, Southern Nazarene guys, and they kind of, I think, did it in the heyday when they used to get stuff. Now a few of them told me stories of like, we had people come in and start asking for things and requesting things. They kind of ruined it. But do you have any like kind of really cool? And I know Royce has this too. Like when Royce came on the show, he gave examples of just how nice the players are, and regardless of what year the players are there, like they're all great people, all human beings, but. Do you have any examples of just, you've been around for a while now, they get to know you a little bit, and just cool stuff that's like, we don't need to, it's not media related, but it's just, hey, one of these players actually cares.
Yeah, I mean, some of that just kind of comes with stories with my kids, mostly. Like J-Dub, Jalen Williams is probably like the one that's been like the most kind to me and to my kids. Where he'll like let us come out to like signing events for free, and just like we'll, chit chat with the kids, and he's always been super kind. Lou Dort's like another one that will like actually there's like this like weird barrier that exists between media and players where you sometimes act like each other don't even exist.
Yeah.
It can be a strange dynamic, but guys like really both Jalen Williams, Dort, Kenrich, like it doesn't really exist as much for those guys, and they've shown me an immense amount of kindness, and really all those guys they'll go along with like any silly bit that I want to do with them at media day or whatever, and like we'll kind of let down and have some fun too. So
a lot of it's trust too. I think when Royce came on, he talked a lot about kind of just you have a job to do, right? Like good and bad. You have good things, you have bad things, but at the end of the day, you have a job to do. But there's also that trust there of like the players trust you to like, hey, you're not going to light me up. You're not going to disrespect me. And that's a fine line, right? Like, because you got to be your person. You got to be truthful because the fans are listening. That you need to say what's on your mind. But then there's again a fine line and a respect there of like, I still see these kids every day, and they are kids. They're young guys, right? Like some of them are the same age as us, but for the most part, like the best athletes are in their young 20s, right? So to us, they're kids. But it's that respect and the relationship you have to build before you can do that, right?
Yeah, it's about showing up and being there and proving that like I'm not here to get you.
Yeah.
I'm here to kind of like my hope and what I do with the Thunder specifically is like I want to enhance the fan experience as much as possible.
Yeah.
I want to tell the story of what's going on in the season. I do want to tell the truth, but I also want this experience, like this shared experience that we have, to be better and better, and I think part of what I want to do within that is to show who these people are, that they're not just basketball players. Like these are like funny guys. Like these are like real guys. And like J-Dub at Media Day, we have like, we're given a list of who is coming by our booth. And so, that's another thing that have been really kind to me is like they give me my own spot. They kind of give me creative liberties to do whatever I want to do. And J-Dub wasn't on my list, and he's like he's one of the guys that's like really approachable. And I just went up to him and was like, hey, can I just get you for 5 minutes? He's like, oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And just like hops over. And it's like those little moments where like he didn't have to do that. Media Day is a long day for players and probably a very annoying day for players because you're just hopping from thing to thing. They're taking pictures of you. You're changing clothes. You're screaming into a camera in one. You're talking on TV on another, and you're just all over the place. But that's also like where the trust factor goes. Like I know I can go to him and ask him, and we kind of know each other's vibe and know that like I'm not going to try to do anything crazy, and and I know that he enjoys to kind of show his personality.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about kind of the game day. What's your game day experience like? Obviously it's evolved over the years now and where you're sat and all that kind of thing. But as someone in your position now, technically that works at every game, how's your day start? What's it like? Talk me through yesterday.
Yeah. So with my job with The Athletic, I'm like usually busy during the day, and so like yesterday, I think I produced like 3 podcasts during the day.
Yeah.
And then,
what does that look like?
So a lot of like pre-planning with hosts and like writing like some scripted stuff, and others are just more topic related, and then connecting, and then editing audio and cutting stuff, and publishing.
All remotely and
all remotely. Yeah. That's all from my house. And then
did they send you like a setup to kind of upgrade you and get you all hooked up, or do you have to figure all that stuff out on your own?
They sent me a Shure MV7 mic.
Yeah.
Which is great.
It's the daddy.
Yep. Yeah. I have the Rodecaster Pro. But then like we'll use the Shure mics, and then but yeah, so working on stuff all day in meetings, different meetings for The Athletic, and then yesterday I went down to the arena about 5:30.
Okay. You get special parking?
Do you get special parking?
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's a huge bonus.
Oh, it is like one of the headaches of like going to a Thunder game that I don't have to worry about anymore.
Right.
I remember.
don't have to just shelling out 20s to park across the street.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's probably gone up for it's probably more now.
Yeah, it's insane.
So you got a parking pass, nice.
Go park. Yesterday, I was wanting to shoot videos, and so I was shooting videos outside the arena yesterday, and
Asking fan questions, right?
asking fan questions. I was trying to. I shot a bunch with kids yesterday,
Yeah.
and they were hilarious. It was
saw
like
some
all,
of those.
It was
They were
like
really
all I
good.
could have like hoped it could have been. So I did that, and then rushed to Mark Degnalt's availability, and so he talks. Let's see, like hour and 45 minutes before the games start.
Yeah.
And so went to his availability. We had Willie Green. He spoke right after that, and then. Usually I love to just go out and sit courtside and either chat with people that are, in town from around the league or, chat with people that are working for the team
Yeah.
or whatever and just like sit and watch the guys warm up because it's just, that's another like, I hope it like never wears off, but it's like still just like so cool to just go sit courtside and like watch these guys kind of do their thing.
And I've kind of had this experience in the golf world when there's no fans there and it's just you and the players,
Yeah.
right? And there's media, but it's still like 50, 60 people in the arena compared to 18,000.
Yeah.
It's an eerie experience,
Oh, it
Right.
is amazing.
and it's quiet.
You can hear the ball bounce.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing, like, when you're playing basketball growing up, like, you hear the sounds of basketball. In the NBA, the sounds of basketball are gone.
Yeah.
And that was what was unique about the bubble when the Thunder played without fans. It's like you could hear the sounds of basketball again. And, like, that was very unique, getting to be, like, one of the media members that got to go to those games where we're all masked up. There's dividers in between all of us, and we're sitting there watching this game, and there's maybe like a couple hundred people in the
Crazy
arena.
experience. Yeah.
But like, yeah, like sitting courtside before everybody gets in, like hearing the sounds of basketball, it's just like, there's nothing better than this.
Right. So you go sit courtside, hang out, watch them warm up.
Yep.
Where do you go after that?
And then like yesterday, I went and we have a media dining room, and so I went in there, and I'm again trying to connect with people that are from New Orleans and stuff like that, and then I'm editing video while I'm shoveling food.
Yeah.
And
Did you have someone shoot video for you? It was all iPhone kind of video, but who do you have?
it was all iPhone. I did it myself. I just had it set up.
A tripod kind
Yeah,
of
I just had a tripod, set it up, hit record,
Yeah.
and then recorded audio.
So you're just
separate.
grabbing people as you
Audio
stayed in one
separately.
spot. Okay.
Yeah, I actually moved around quite a bit.
Okay.
Just trying to find.
Carrying your little
yeah,
tripod.
I'm looking like such a moron.
Here's me and my
walking
ring
around.
light.
Like, hey guys.
For the content,
It's like
that's
I
why
promise this is real. Like I promise this is for something
Right.
substantial. But like I just figured I had my kids when my kids came with me early. I had them be the guys behind the camera,
Right.
Which they thought that was a
Oh,
blast.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So, and I mean, this is like low level production. Like and it's part of like for me. I still want to learn and grow and become better and learn new skills. And like video editing is something over the past like year that I've just like decided I want to be better at. I want to learn how to do it. I don't want to have to rely on somebody else. I don't want to wait on somebody else to edit video for me. And so I have started to like learn how to cut video and how to use all the Adobe products.
Final Cut Pro.
Yeah,
That's where it's at,
just
yeah.
kind of I've dove into all of that, and so I was like, I can do that. Like I can shoot.
Yeah.
Like this is simple. Like, this
The
vertical
hardest
video.
part I found is getting over the mental side of it, right? Getting over being like, I'm gonna look like an idiot walking around with a tripod and a ring light.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Then you see the video and you're like, that's exactly what you
Yeah.
want, right? And especially all those especially now when people, because the one thing people don't do here, like in New York or bigger cities, is no one really walks around.
Yeah.
Right. But in the Thunder Arena or Thunder games, now you have this fan experience outside. Everyone is out there, and there's a
Yep.
lot of people down there that aren't going to the game.
Yep.
So you're like, perfect opportunity. Let's set it up. But for me, it was the mental side of like, I'm gonna look like an idiot. I need to get over that.
Yeah.
Because we all have self-conscious in some way.
Yeah.
But the video, I just thought it looks great.
Thank
right?
you.
I mean, but it doesn't need to be high production either.
Yeah.
You don't need to be out there with a
It
red
doesn't have
camera.
to be crazy. I don't have to pay for a
iPhone's great.
freelance somebody or other
Yeah.
to do everything. And it's crazy, like what these things can do. Like
Amazing.
everything that
It's
you
all
can
you
do.
need.
I mean,
We
it's
were
wild.
in a video together doing the T-shirt thing.
Yeah.
The guy shot it on an iPhone.
Yes.
I showed up. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You're doing this? He's like, yeah, on my phone. I'm like,
Yeah.
has like over
Wait a minute.
100,000 views. I'm like, I need to do more on my iPhone.
I know. It's crazy what, like, just
Yeah.
like this, obviously there's so much tech in this, but it's,
Consumer advice for everyone out there: you don't need a big fancy camera.
you really
Right?
don't.
Just use your iPhone.
You really don't.
Rode wireless Bluetooth microphone, and that's
right.
it.
That's right.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
So yesterday's game 2. Obviously, you're in the arena. The t-shirts, great. How did yesterday compare to previous playoff games that you've been to?
The crowd has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
So far in the playoffs. I was a little skeptical, to be honest, what the crowd would be like, because people would talk about it, and I went to, actually got to sit courtside with Mike Beckham at the Kings game.
Simple Modern Mike
Yeah.
Beckham? Yeah.
And Mike's an amazing guy and somebody that I'm getting to know, and is obviously like very influential. But
Yeah.
like I got to go sit with him, and it was a blast, and it was pretty loud in there. And people afterwards were like, that felt like a playoff game, and I was like, guys, come on now.
Yeah. That's a
We're-
big statement.
Like we're better than that. I just think people had forgotten.
Yeah.
And I thought, if it's anything like that, the night of the playoff game, I'm going to be so disappointed.
Yeah.
Because part of it is even like knowing when to stand up. There was like one moment where I stood up before anybody else did. That was like in the first like 3 rows. And I'm like, I haven't really been to a game I don't really go to games as a fan anymore.
Yeah, it's work.
And so it was kind of strange, like stepping back into that. But I went as a fan, and I stood up at this moment in the game where I was like, something about to happen. And I stood up and I looked around. I'm the only one standing up. It's like, people,
Yeah.
we gotta, like, you have to stand up during these moments, and we have to know when to do that. And there's part of me that got a little worried that like, the muscle memory of the playoffs going to come back, and it did in a big way.
That's awesome.
I think it's honestly the loudest the arena's been since 2016 when the Thunder made like their big run to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
Like, those years with Russ and PG, it did get loud in the building, but the energy just felt different.
Yeah.
Like I give a ton of credit to Thunder fans. People, not only people here, obviously mostly people here in Oklahoma City, but there was a guy from Germany that flew here to go to game 1 and 2, that I connected with, and there's people that are coming in from all parts of the country, just to come to these games. And that's one of like the cool things about getting to do this with Down to Dunk is like people will just message me and just be like, hey, I'm coming from Iowa, or I'm coming from this place to go to this game, and it's just people. It's just cool that people even just want to tell me,
Right.
It's like with no intent of anything else, but to just like, I just want to let you know, which makes me feel like, okay, this is great. Like I feel like maybe I am enhancing the fan experience for these people because like they see me as like a touch point to the team.
Yeah, they're
ways.
living through your lens, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing and hearing everything you talk about, and like whether in Iowa, Germany, Japan, wherever it is, like you're their touch point. Like you said, you're there, because they're not getting it anywhere else, and that's the value add for what you do, right? Is you're a fan at heart, and then you're like, what would I like to see as a fan?
Yeah.
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 I want to see what cool shoes people are wearing. I want to see like just the little things that you aren't going to get on a broadcast all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But, yeah. The playoff experience. I'm glad to hear that the fans kind of have raised the level a bit, because that's one thing people ask me about. What do you miss from back home? And I miss games, because the fan interaction of games, whether it's football, soccer, rugby, like we're just in unison. And it just works. And you're used to singing, you're used to yelling, you're used to just giving abuse to the opposing team, like whatever it is. But the team, there's so many great videos on YouTube of, 30, 40, 50,000 seater stadiums that are singing the same song, right? And you think, how do we create that in, how do you create that in the US? Because you don't really get that.
Yeah.
It's not really the culture here.
No, it's not.
Part of it is selling 50% off, concessions.
That's right.
Right at the beginning to get everyone juiced and ready to go.
Genius.
But again, like it's when you have all those people yelling, standing on their feet, wearing the same T-shirt, it all adds to that experience, right? 18,000 people in the same white and blue T-shirt. As simple as that sounds, right? Like
And you get bullied if you don't wear it.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, I mean, obviously you've been doing this for a while now. Like looking, way down the road. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Like, I mean, obviously you have a home setup. You're recording with the guys. Are you thinking of building out a network and having more shows, like your own kind of athletic style network? I mean, what was the plan here? And obviously you're still living your dream. Where do you want to take it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I simply do not know. I honestly, and maybe this is just cheesy, but I just hope to be able to do Down to Dunk with the group of guys that I have right now, just for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because so like our guys on Friday, Jay Smith, Taylor Dickerson, Luke Stevens, we've been doing the show since 2012 together. My buddy Alex Spears, who I've been friends with since we were in kindergarten, he and I do the Wednesday show together, and he had been doing a national show with me called Slam and Jam at the Athletic. He's just like one of the most creative people I've ever known. And then I do a Monday show with my friend Michele Berra, who lives in Italy, and he does it remotely from his house at odd hours.
Yeah.
And the group of
8
guys
hours ahead? 7 hours ahead of Italy?
Yeah. So it's a very unique group, and I genuinely love podcasting with those guys, and like getting to interact with them every week, and like just as like a part of like the rhythm of my life. Like part of my hope is like, because it's pretty unusual to be able to do a project like this with the same people for a long time.
Yeah.
Like it just, for whatever reason, it can be hard to keep it going. But like my genuine hope is like we can just figure out a way to like continue to do this together for a long time. And then like the same, like me and John Hamm have done this Dream Team show together since 2017. And so I have the same hope for that show as well. And we've had other people kind of join. Joe Masato of the Oklahoman does that with us. And then Brett Dawson, who's been kind of in and out of media jobs here, does that with us. And then Rylan Stiles joined us just a few weeks ago, who does Locked on Thunder. Brandon Rabar, comes on that show sometimes too. And so it's just honestly like creating like this like brotherhood that I would love to kind of continue. And then like professionally, I would love to continue to do national shows. Is kind of where I would like it to go. Is kind of keep things growing locally, but then like expand nationally and make our imprint at the Athletic bigger, I guess, is kind of where we are now. But as of today, I'm kind of like keeping my head down and like really just working and really just trying to stay focused on like what's in front of me day to day and what I want to accomplish, because I try to stay pretty ambitious with what I want to do on a daily basis. And usually like maybe when September hits, I can kind of look up and be like, okay, we're at like what else? But like right now, it's almost hard for me to think.
Right, you're in the daily, just
I'm just
grinding,
like,
let's get to tomorrow.
How do I squeeze as much juice out of today as possible? Is kind of where I'm at, today. Is like, how do I make audio, video, social, YouTube, this, like I want to do it all. And that can be like part of a problem with me. It's like, I want everything, and I want my kids involved. I want my wife there, and I want to do everything. And like,
that's really cool though, because a lot of people don't. A lot of people can't have their kids involved. They can't have their wife involved. Right. As much as as much as your wife might love basketball and your kids love it, your job might not allow it. You're a really fortunate position to put them all in that. Right. Go to games together. Whatever it is, like have them hold the iPhone when you're doing videos yesterday down in the fan experience. Like those are blessings that you're going to look back on and be like, I'm really lucky to have those experiences, right?
And I'm not always happy, by the way, in the middle of it.
I'm sure.
There's definitely times where I'm like in the middle of it and I'm thinking, why did I do this? But at the end of the day, I'm always like, that was great. Like, I'm so glad I did it. But there are times where it's like, I have 45 seconds to get to where I need to go. And I need to make sure that my kids are in this spot and this spot.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, there's definitely, it's definitely not all sunshine when it comes to all of it, but it's those things that it's like you almost have to like, because you can trick yourself sometimes to like say like it's it's more important that I get this many views or whatever on Instagram, or it's important that I get this YouTube video just right. Like, we all know like what the most important things are. You know, we all inherently know that, you know, you want to spend time with your kids.
Yeah.
You want to value, you know, your relationship with your wife. You want, like, you inherently know all those things, but and I'm not perfect at it. There's definitely times where I could have done more, but I'm trying to be as mindful as possible when I'm talking about like squeezing everything out of each day, that, you know, that it includes my kids and my wife.
Yeah, you plan to have any more kids, or you just done at 3?
It just depends on the day.
Just depends on the
Today,
day.
there's no way.
We'll ask Amy.
Yeah.
No, regardless if you decide to have more kids or not, right? Like, that's such a cool experience back to what I said at the beginning, sport is awesome, you know? Like, and I'm a golfer, right? I got to play golf with my granddad and my dad, you know, and then maybe one day I'll play with my kids or whatever it is. But, you know, sadly, you can do that in basketball, and even if you just shoot a hoop, right? There's a lot of sports you cannot do that, you know? And you know, basketball, you can sit in a chair and shoot hoops if you want to. Like, it's still fun to do regardless of how old you are. Or young you are, whatever it is. That's really kind of special that you have that, and clearly you realize that. You know, you don't take it for granted. You know, as busy as time is, as crazy as the arena is, and you've got to get to places. You know, like, it's a really special moment to have the kids here.
It is.
You know, do any of them share like the creativity side that you have?
Yeah, my oldest son is all the time like, when can I get on the show?
It's not a kid's show.
It's like, I know just as much as
There's gotta be a kid's show.
Like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, let's wait a little while to do it. I've actually recorded, and these, like, we didn't release these anywhere, but I've recorded a couple shows like with just my boys and I, like, and I have them just like tucked away on a drive somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, it'd be kind of fun to look back on.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I'm again, like, if you have the time, you know, you're doing so many shows at the moment, but creating a kid's show, I don't know if there is a kid's show out there for basketball, but
I mean, it would be hilarious and it would be great.
Kids have it so much better than we had it growing up. YouTube and all the other stuff that they're watching, and being creative and having an iPhone and doing anything you want. I mean, I was told to run outside and scrape my knee and play in the mud. You know, just like, go outside, ride your bike, go kick a football around, right? And kids are like, you know, I saw Chad's son, Cohen, loves basketball, and he has this thing on his iPad, and it's just like this game. It's like coaching through. It's like, I don't know how it's done, but it's like he basically just like follows where the ball needs to go.
Oh yeah, I've seen those.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, those are really cool.
And I was like, this is the greatest coaching tool ever. Yeah. Like, can we get this for golf somewhere? Like, you know, and went over there, and he's just like, you know, in the corner, like sweating profusely, just like wearing himself out, but he's loving it. And just like following the app of like, okay, this is a workout, and because it's points based, it builds obviously it's building your skills, and he's not looking down at the ball, he's looking up at the screen while his ball handling's really good. And I'm like, dude, where was that when I was 9, 10, 11 years old?
My coaches just tell me don't dribble.
Back to that too. Sick. Well, mate, I know you're super busy. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing some stories.
Yeah.
Where can people follow you if they don't already follow you and listen to the show?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew K. Schlecht. You can just go search Down to Dunk on YouTube. You can search it in your podcast catcher. You can look for the Athletic MBA show there as well. You can go to patreon.com/OKC Dream Team to find that show. It's a paid-for show. But I promise you, it's like very worthwhile. We had Tyler Parker of The Ringer on our post-game show last night. Another Oklahoman, by the way. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, sick, man. Have fun at the next game. Hopefully we don't need the next game, right? Maybe they go to.
If they sweep them, we'll wait for the second round.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll just keep going and going and going. So yeah, enjoy, love it. Appreciate you coming in, and look forward to maybe one day me learning basketball, having more knowledge, and sitting somewhere in the arena, looking down at you from Cloud City, being like, I made it. I have a media pass one day. But no, man, appreciate you coming in. People listening, I'll put all the links in the description, and we will catch you next episode. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do.
And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go, and not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well, so people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln.
This episode is presented by Citizens Bank of Edmond. Citizens Bank of Edmond has been serving Edmond since 1901. They pride themselves on investing in the community and are here for all your personal and business banking needs. For more information, go to mycitizens.bank and follow them on Instagram at citizensedmond, as well as go bank there, because I bank there too. It's been a fantastic personal experience for me. I've had my podcast account there now, my podcast business account there now for 4 years now, I think, and it's been fantastic. So definitely worth your time. They're a great group of people, and they're always there to answer the phone when I forget my password, because I seem to forget it daily. So yeah, go to Citizens Edmond and check them out. It's been awesome.
This episode is brought to you by the Dog House OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Dog House have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Banks, where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Dog House. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.